Big development, in fact, in the ICICI Videocon loan fraud case. The appellate tribunal under the Smugglers and Foreign Exchange Manipulation Act has found former ICICI Bank CEO Chanda Kochhar guilty. Kochhar has been found guilty of accepting 64 crore bribe in return for sanctioning a 300 crore rupee loan to the Videocon group in 2009. The clean chit that Chanda Kochhar received from the PMLA adjudicating authority has been reversed. The ED, which attached Kochhar's assets worth 78 crores rupees, has been upheld. Chanda Kochhar's clear conflict of interest has been underscored. The tribunal noted that immediately after disbursement of the loan, 64 crore rupees was diverted to New Power Renewables, where Deepak Kochhar, the husband of Chanda Kochhar, was managing the company. Dr. Sharath Kohli, senior economist, is joining us on this broadcast. Dr. Kohli, what do you make, of course, of this trouble mounting for Chanda Kochhar and the way this entire trial is panning out?
Good evening, Uday. Good evening to my fellow panelists and Newsx viewers. I think the tribunal has established the case that this is a classic example of 300 crores being paid, being financed to Videocon's dhoots by ICICI. So you disburse 300 crores. Once I receive the money, we will give back 64 crores to you. The two companies involved, Supreme Energy Private Limited and New Power Renewables Private Limited, they were both used as conduits, to siphon out the money and pay them. So it's an offense under Prevention of Money Laundering, PMLA as well. And of course, this is a classic case of corruption. This reminds me of phone banking. When Prime Minister Modi, he spoke of phone banking a few years ago. This is what phone banking was, that this is how loans used to be given, that, you get a call from some top brass. Of course, here, the unfortunate part is that a banking official herself was involved in it. A banking head herself was involved. But phone banking was when you used to get a call from some neta or somebody, a high-ranking official, and the banks used to disburse. Now, see, in any classic case, when a loan is given to a borrower, there's a checklist. What do you check? What you check first is the borrower capable of repaying? Number one. What is the balance sheet of the borrower looking like? Number three. What is the credibility of the promoters and the directors of the company? What are the prospects of the company continuing? What are the basic sales, revenue, and profits of the company? So all these boxes need to be ticked at that time. And it is important to note that Videocon, we all know, is a sunken ship. That Videocon was never in a position to probably repay that amount. So this was a classic case of a deal and an arrangement between the two of them, that, okay, you disburse 300 crores. After I receive 300 crores, I will give back 64 crores to you. The remaining 236 crores, you use the way you want. So I think ICICI Bank, which is a diversified company, it's a bank which is held by diversified shareholders. It doesn't belong to government. It also doesn't belong to any particular, industrial group or so. People's money is there. So this was a classic case of siphoning out people's money for an industrial house, for vested interest, and a case of a bribe. I think tribunal finds this as an open and shut case. To me, when I had read this case at the beginning, when 2009, 2012, this happened, the disbursement happened in 2012. But ever after that, if you look at the facts of the case, they were very clear, because Mr. Deepak Kochhar, her husband, she should have disclosed at that time. If she was pleading not guilty, then she should have disclosed at the time of disbursal that my husband is involved, or these companies belong to my husband, or are directly or indirectly controlled by my husband. The fact that she did not disclose itself smells a rat at that time. And to me, it was an open and shut case always. I'm glad that, tribunal has that. I think this will set an example, Uday, for the bankers, for the banking system. And, we've constantly been talking about the government banking system. We call them as the PSBs, the public sector banks. But here is a case of a private sector bank. We call ICICI as a private sector bank because government doesn't have a stake in it. So this is a classic case of a private bank. And I think all private and public banks have got a message that if you mess around with people's money, even in private sector banks, Uday, there is people's money, because it is the deposits of the depositors which is used to lend out to the borrowers. So I think the message is loud and clear. If you mess around with that money, you're not going to be spared. It is now 13 years since the disbursal has been made. So you don't feel that if probably 4 or 5 years have gone, the file must have got buried, the case must have got buried, it must have taken a backseat, people must have forgotten, courts must have forgotten, tribunal must have forgotten. Well, that's not the case. you can be held guilty even after 12, 13 years of having done that fraud. And I think Chanda Kochhar at one point of time was the apple of everybody's eye as far as banking sector is concerned. I remember she was being called at conclaves, at conferences, as speakers, speaking and setting an example of being a banker. I think she has ruined her career, you know, the whole reputation of being a banker. And we were so glad that there's a lady banker who's shining, who's a shining star. But I think things turned out to be the other way around. I think a classic example that the arms of law are very long. You may run for miles, but eventually you're going to get caught, Uday.
All right, let me in fact quickly take that to Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya, President CDPR as well. Dr. Bhattacharya, now of course the big development is coming in regarding the way this is panning out. The tribunal holding Chanda Kochhar guilty, prima facie, it does look like a big setback for her and her legal efforts in this case, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I think if the tribunal has gone through the due process and has found out that Chanda Kochhar is guilty, then I believe then that's what the case would be. But more interestingly, you know, a loan is not given by the whims and fancies of a single person in any large bank, or for that matter, even in a small bank. There's always a committee. And even when this issue was exposed by Arvind Gupta way back in 2016, the point that was raised is that it cannot be only Chanda Kochhar. There is responsibility of others, and I have not seen their names coming up. So it's a pretty deep governance issue, because somehow the entire committee was influenced in approving this loan. And you know, there is about 10 lakh crores of loans which have been written off as NPA. I think this case should be taken up as a case which should trigger investigations into every single NPA which is greater than 1,000 crore. Because clearly, as Sharad Kohli laid out, there was a quid pro quo, and that is exactly what was investigated by the tribunal. So why are these large loans becoming NPAs without any recourse, and what is being done about it? And how does an entire committee agree to such large loans being given, where clearly there is a quid pro quo, clearly there is an element of corruption, and therefore there is a very large governance question mark. ICICI Bank is one of the best banks in this country, and if such a thing can happen at the highest level in one of the best banks in this country, then we are at a complete financial meltdown danger. Obviously, I don't want to be alarmist. The point more is to drive in and do more investigative study in all other loans and NPAs that have happened in the last 10-15 years, so that there is no repeat of such an incident ever. And I think that is an important learning to be looked at and to be implemented as soon as possible.
Okay, let me in fact also get in Piyush Pant, senior journalist, in at this point. Piyush Pant, your first reaction to this holding of Chanda Kochhar guilty, and of course also this entire incident. What lessons can be learned for bankers, for the industry, through the way this entire trial has panned out, and also of course the case of quid pro quo?
Well, in fact, this judgment, tribunal judgment, has proved again what she did, Chanda Kochhar did, which ED was pointing it out, which ED had pointed it out. But unfortunately, she was given a clean chit by the UPMLA court. So now this tribunal has established that it is a case of corruption where bribe was taken and the loan was sanctioned after taking the bribe. You know, here what happened when the bribe reached in the account of the company, Deepak Kochhar's company, then the second and next day, the loan was sanctioned to the Videocon. So it was clear case of taking bribe for making loan available to the company. So I think this is a big lesson for those who give importance to the money and who give importance to the lust for the money. And I think Kochhar also, she realized it when she wrote a letter 10 years back to her daughter Aarti, where she pointed it out that one should be ambitious, one should, of course, go ahead in the life, but one should also take care that one should also follow the values of life. Now she realized it after doing so many mess, in the banking sector and in her life, because she was at the top of the banking sector. I mean, she was an icon, sort of an icon in Indian banking, and she had so many awards given to her nation, international as well. But what level she descended to, it's very, very, very surprising, and I think it exposes the nature of the Indian character, in the Indian character. People, how weak Indian people are. Whether they are at the top, even at the top, but they just fall prey to the lust of the money. Here it's clear case of this thing, and particularly also it is an indication, and it is you can say a verdict on the the nexus between the corporate in the corporate sector or the banking sector, nexus between the top officials, and also because as we're saying, we know that the public sector bank, they had this bad reputation of being run by somebody in the political sphere or in the government, and sanctioning the loans. But here also
Absolutely.
is something.
Yes, Naveen Chomal also with us now. Naveen Chomal, what happens next? Of course, this is a big moment for the trial with the tribunal saying this. What happens next though, Naveen Chomal? Because this is being looked at as an example case. Through this case, we will be able to see if there are checks and balances to hold these, high and powerful in the economic strata guilty, if indeed this does hold out.
Definitely, I fully agree with you. But I think we need to travel a long way in this sector, because there is a very big rot in the system. For last over 70 years, the banks have been plundered. The public money has, through banks, been siphoned off by the government, people controlling the government. I have myself studied the case of Nirav Modi. I was in fact supposed to go to London also for a testimony in that matter as an independent legal officer to give my opinion. So I've seen in that case also, and even in this case, it is identical. Now here, there may not be direct political pressure. Perhaps there may be somebody behind the curtains. But Chanda Kochhar is definitely guilty, where the money has again been so brazenly and blatantly routed back to her husband of the very next day. So this is a factor that was a time when people did not have the fear of law, and there was an era when the judges were totally turning a blind eye towards all the frauds of the banks. Even today, it becomes very difficult for litigants to convince the banks that, courts I mean to say, that the banks are committing rampant frauds. You please look into the matters. So I think the economy of the nation is still being corroded. So we all, through our this esteemed platform, send a message to the society that everybody should raise a voice and support the government to take stern action against all frauds the banks are committing. Because I, being a lawyer for 30 years of practice, I have come across a number of cases where the bank's officials are openly committing frauds, maybe not of the level of 300 crores, but few crores, some of them in fact bigger also. So, and the courts are very reluctant to take action against them. This is a very welcome case where the Honorable Tribunal has held Chanda Kochhar guilty. But just a couple of years back, Chanda Kochhar walked out of the jail so easily. She was arrested, and then the division bench of the High Court, fair was shown to her and terming her arrest to be illegal, and she was released on bail. So this is a shocking thing for the people, and they will lose the confidence in the bank also, and ultimately it may adversely affect the banking factor, the transactions and economy of our country. So I think we all must awaken the people that wherever you find all these hanky-panky and frauds going on in the bank, let us report to the authorities. Let us force the government through public voice that please take action. Please form more, economic offense wings where they can investigate the bank frauds also. Over to you, sir.
Yes, let me quickly take that back across to Sharad Kohli. Sharad, why is it important to make an example of this case? This is a case which should prove that there are checks and balances for those who may use their position in a manner like Chanda Kochhar allegedly did. Why is this case becoming an example case, according to you, Sharad?
Well, Uday, for the simple reason that, the rampant corruption which used to once, exist in even the public banking system, a message has to be conveyed to them, number one. Number two, it was always envisaged and it was always perceived that the private banking system is cleaner. Private banking system doesn't get into this nexus of corporate versus banks. But this case has proved that even private banking system is not as clean as one would have imagined it. So therefore, it is necessary that this case should set an example. Also, please allow me. I have a lot of respect for Mr. Piyush Pant. I mean, we have shared screens over a number of media platforms earlier, but I do object to what he said that Indians have a weak mentality. Indians get easily carried away. So I would request him not to brand all Indians in that manner. There are bad fishes here and there. It doesn't mean that all Indians are like that. It doesn't mean all MDs and CEOs of every single company are like that. It also doesn't mean that all banking officers are like that. Probably Chanda Kochhar and company. I'm saying and company because after what Dr. Bhattacharya said, I agree. There may be other people conspiring with her. The beneficiaries of this amount may be more than one. Of course, her husband is definitely there. So I call it Chanda Kochhar and company. That Chanda Kochhar and company had this desire of get rich quick. I'm sure CEOs and MDs of banks, Uday, they are very highly paid officers. Their salaries are definitely much more than all the remaining banking staff. So probably they were not satisfied with what is coming in. They wanted to make it quickly and make it quickly to the top. So they found this route, tied up with Mr. Dhoot of Videocon, and they said okay. And also I would like to correct Mr. Pant here that the amount of bribe was paid after the money landed in the accounts of SEPL and NRPL. It was not paid before. The deal was if you read the minutes of the tribunal, the deal was that paisa aane dijiye, आपको आपका हिस्सा मिल जाएगा. I am putting it in very plain and simple terms. So the bribe was not paid before. The bribe was paid after the amount was credited, and very neatly, on the pretext of, investing in energy-based projects, on the pretext of investing in renewable energy, which was the talk of the town. Even today, it's the talk of the town. So it was very easy to get these sanctions because Videocon as a company, if you look at the balance sheet, was in perennial losses. So they formed these new companies that let's form renewable energy and power, which is the demand. So nobody is going to question that. The money was very neatly siphoned off through these companies. So all banking system is not like that. But yes, as you rightly said, an example has been set. And I'm sure after this judgment, and I would want to see the perpetrators of this crime go to jail, not just being accused. They should not be let off. They must be behind bars. Only then an example will be set that if you try and fiddle around with public money, this is going to be the outcome. You have to be accountable. Not only your reputation will go down, but you will have to serve a sentence, Uday, without a doubt.
Okay, Jayjeet Bhattacharya, last word to you before we take a break. Where is this headed next, and what are the lessons that this entire episode offers us? Jayjeet, I think you're on mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what Dr. Sharad Kohli just mentioned, is that there needs to be an example set. Already it has taken 9 years from the time the whistleblower had come out with this scam, which was in 2016, and we are in 2025. We should have a process which accelerates this process of finding the truth, of finding out who are culprits, of being able to investigate the whistleblower statement, especially in such large cases, and absolutely make examples of people who have been caught, because it's very difficult to do a probe in every single bank and every single loan. So at least the ones where it is detected, I think there should be a big example made. And also, I don't think this is the end of the probe, because where are the co-conspirators? This is not a one-person show that happened. There were other co-conspirators. They should all be brought to book. Otherwise, what's the point of governance? What's the point of corporate governance? Why are we spending so much of time and effort on an independent director, on a loan committee, and so on and so forth? We need to make these examples and find everybody else who was involved and do it very, very quickly.
My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this discussion. It's time for a very short break.